Bungalow Bill here. I have emerged from the haze that is breadboarding, and am ready to hop back into the campaign. The last time we were here, the Grey Talons disregarded established treaties and launched thermonuclear weapons. I would like to remind you that they were the aggressors in this war. They attacked me when I failed to pay them for their protection racket. As a result, I've declared them international terrorists, and am no longer required to respect the rules of engagement. I'm not using lasercraft against them so much this time because they proved to be highly resilient to those in the past, given the fact that they were using smoke, and we're going to start using some more conventional APS against them. They're also, as much as possible, going to be my primary focus this time. Alright, it looks like our first battle will be against the Twin Guard. I had been intending to fight the Grey Talons first, but I was still capturing a Twin Guard area, so I did stimulate them to fight me. It's likely that they will have some smoke defenses here, and we are entirely laser-based, so we'll see how this goes.
Listening.
This is a mech that I wasn't really expecting to encounter on this difficulty. Let's wait for this to fade in. I immediately get killed, which is really unfortunate because I was about to look at the enemy vehicles. So I'll have to wait until my camera gets freed up again. Because I can literally do nothing. I can't pause the game, I can't move my camera around, I can do absolutely nothing. And when I try to spawn myself, I spawn myself off the corner of the map. So let's bring ourselves back into the action here, shall we? Alright. Make it so I'm not controlling weapons. Swarm of bees. Not that scary. I think it's one of the lower difficulty vehicles that has a gigantic pile of ammo in it somewhere. We are more concerned with the Titan, which likely began the fight by shooting us directly with a railgun, although I can't be terribly sure. A little bit of nice decoration. It has enormous amounts of healing. Titan torso and the Titan. Respectable firepower. It could have also been a particle cannon. We'll see how we do. It probably won't be that great because the amount of healing I find at least to be a little bit cheesy. Swarm of bees is gone. The Thundershocks took it down nicely. Now Thundershocks are taking out the Titan base, which is good. Hopefully the Raw will be able to keep the firepower down from the Titan a little bit, but I'm not sure it quite has the damage to do that. I don't see smoke coming in though, which is good. We haven't taken that much damage. We'll have to see how those missiles do. I'm not sure how well our lambs will handle them. It looks like our laser damage is not able to exceed its healing power, which means that... Oh, I wanted to look at... Well, we can see a little bit of blocky confetti. It's not terrible, though. We're still doing okay. The firewall is behind the cockpit anyway, so that's where all the heavy armor and stuff is, which is part of the reason we died so fast. But yeah, with this monstrous healing spam and our lack of armor penetration ability, well, we got a little bit of internal detonation there, but primarily our only way, let's teleport out of this line of fire before our view gets any more blurred. Really, the only way we can kill it is either to terminate the base or to run it out of materials, which looks like it is happening pretty quickly. See, we're down to 94%. It has a fair amount of basically unavoidable damage, and the Raw does not shoot flares. Oh, let's really hope it has an altitude scuttle setting. The Raw doesn't shoot flares, so we're just taking all the missile damage. We do have lambs, but they've been continuously nerfed since I built the Raw, and they just, despite its massive amount of laser firepower, just don't defend it as well as they used to. Used to be able to even take out missile swarms with it, but that's really not the case anymore. Okay, good, it looks like it's got scuttle settings, so we're just burning money on nothing right now. Pretty good chunk of particle cannon components sitting in the middle here. To me, the Titan still, I mean, it still looks reasonably interesting, but a little bit dated compared to some of the other faction craft. Oh, certainly better looking than my craft, especially the Thundershocks, which I haven't painted yet. Let's pause while it despawns. It takes forever to despawn if I don't pause.
Listening.
I'm going to pull this fleet back for repairs.
Moving out.
Of course, this is going to cause a little bit of a resource bottleneck there. But... Oh, actually, I want to set the meme ship against the next Titan. That'll be an interesting one. We haven't seen that vehicle fight yet. Okay, the Bastard's here already, although I don't have any support vehicles for it yet. Looks like we've got a Valor Swarm coming for us. I thought we had enough stuff going on that that wouldn't really happen. This, it's about a 3-to-1 cost advantage for the enemy. Oh, and we're actually fairly injured too. I pulled these back, but didn't bring them all the way back to a base. Maybe that's why they're coming for us. Well... Oh yeah, these are pretty crippled. So, I guess we'll just die. I might end this battle early if we're not really doing any damage and just let our ships despawn. This one's not terrible, but we look a little bit light on engine power right now, which may be part of the reason that we're sinking. Fortunately, we're still able to shoot at a sufficiently sharp angle despite the fact that we don't have elevation on these turrets, which is one of the next things I want to fix. Okay, it looks like the enemy vehicles are so weak to lasers that our massive material disadvantage and the fact that our craft weren't actually functional at the moment doesn't really matter too much.
Listening.
Alright, we have a Viceroy here. Oh, I forgot about this. Oops.
Listening. Moving out. Listening.
Yeah, we're just gonna get obliterated by the Viceroy. It's not really...
Receiving. Moving now.
It's not really a fair fight at all. I don't think I even have anything particularly nearby that can assist. I assumed that we'd have them sufficiently distracted in other places that we wouldn't have gotten assaulted there. Looks like it's not the case. I'm gonna have to bring something down. I really wish that the Twin Guard would chill a little bit so that I could fight the Grey Talons, but this has some pretty nasty APS on it, and yeah, it just immediately put a hole in our steam system. Part of that is that it got a good angle on it. We have weak top and bottom armor, and part of it is that we're a quarter of their cost. We just can't afford to armor ourselves that heavily. If we were a front sider or something, yeah, we could. But at this point, it's just going to take a while for them to kill us, so we'll just... I thought it said we were going to... That was interesting.
Listening.
So, we'll do this. This will be pretty quick. This time, the resource disadvantage isn't quite reversed, but it's very nearly. And I really doubt that there's any smoke on the Viceroy, so let's just rip it in half. Its internal, well, everything is detonated. I think its ammo and its APS are both incredibly volatile. So we basically just instantly drill a hole straight through it. It's very, very thin. So the small lasers from the Thundershock don't have the penetrating power for it, but even fairly weak APS can one-shot it. Alright, it looks like we have some Scarlet Dawn craft coming in. A Wyvern and a Carnage. The Wyvern? Oh, it is Scarlet Dawn.
Receiving.
We'll have to do this fight instead. I need to get these craft healed up at some point. I also probably need to move the elephant down into Grey Talon territory as quickly as I can, because it is not really the best thing to use against the Scarlet Dawn. It's basically just a paperweight in this fight. My knowledge of the smaller Scarlet Dawn craft is very thin. I'm assuming this is the Wyvern. 50 missile firepower, which is fairly light. A lot of thrusters in the front, so it can pull up out of a dive very fast. I'm assuming that these are large torpedoes. Maybe not. Well, anyway, large missiles. So it comes in on a run and drops them. Hopefully our flares will do something about that. And then the Carnage, which is mixed missile and laser. So despite all these decos and stuff, laser. Okay. So hopefully we'll see these missiles fairly soon and launch our flares. Yep, our flares are going up. We're not really going to get much done. Well, I think we might have done a little bit. No, that was our that was the lungfish. That wasn't expansion from our frag. I lost track of their missiles. Did some good hits on the enemy though, and they're gone. I was really trying to pay attention to what the enemy missiles were doing. Doesn't look like we really took any damage though.
Receiving.
Cylinder has overheated. We must have taken a little bit of engine damage because I don't think any of those engines are built in properly. But all the ships in that fight had multiple engines as well. Actually, I say weren't built in properly. They're all prefabs, for what that's worth.
Listening.
I was going to put it with another vehicle, but
Receiving. Moving now.
that's what I get for not watching.
Listening.
Yep, these enemies are a little bit fast and a little bit scattered, so this is just being
Listening.
really frantic. Depending on the enemy altitude, well, I'm going to spawn the Anubis as high as it'll go. It won't be able to shoot, and we're just going to be relying on the dandelions. Not the dandelions, the Thundershock. Dandelions won't do very much either. I did take a quick pass at them recently, and balance them out so they're not back heavy anymore. And give them the ability to control attitude a little bit with the helium pumps. Took 1% damage. We don't have anything terribly important going on the front. Yeah, so actually that might have been enough to take out some heavy armor, which the Anubis only has one layer of heavy armor on the front. For a front sider that expensive, that's very, very frail. It does have a pretty big decoy. Alright, I assume that the dandelions are not gonna... Well, they actually might be able to get through the slams, they just have to be able to hit. And so does the Anubis. This is a pretty thin target. Yeah, we've saturated the lambs. So even with railguns, because of the fact that we have base bleeders, we may have a little bit of trouble hitting. Okay, it looks like we've poked some holes in it. So we didn't take any damage from that particle cannon shot that time. It was probably all internal to the Andromeda. I don't know if or where we've put holes. There's some decos covering things up, so we can put some pretty big holes in this craft without me really being able to see. Its relative velocity is slowed down a lot, so our dandelions are getting in some decent explosive damage now, which is nice. And it's basically just a sitting target now. Are those perpendicular shield bounces that came directly back at us? Yeah, they were. I wonder if we hit ourselves. No, we would know if we hit ourselves. I think we go through so much armor that we could pop one of our own turrets. Well, the turrets don't really pop, but they're not ammo ejectored, so the gunpowder does do a fair bit of damage to the adjacent loaders. We do have terrible clip geometry, or clip Tetris, so a lot of the time we do not have very many shells in those guns. I do plan on replacing this with an airship that I'm planning on putting armor-piercing high explosive rounds into.
Receiving.
So we'll see how that works. I'm pretty excited to test those out. I'll probably do, like with the Thundershock, I'll show all of the subsystems that I build. And in this case, because it's going to be a much larger vehicle, I'm going to build the subsystems in groups and show how they're built, and then put them together in the build vehicle for the entire, or the build video for the entire thing. I am not, however, going to show how to build things that I've already built. I might do a little bit on them, but won't cover things again. So I'll probably spend an entire episode just building the APHE guns. I did actually build some railguns recently, just before I started filming, that were intended to go in for the next vehicle, but they're a little bit too big for what I want to build. They'll take up just a little bit too much of the cost. So I do have quite a bit spawned in here, but I'm not really expecting hits from the elephant. A lot of shielding on the enemies, and a little bit of rail as well. I assume the elephant that we're on is the one that's taking incoming enemy fire. Yeah. So, against the APS and that sort of thing, this vehicle just has to tank it all. If it's fighting with... it can do some stuff against crams and missiles, but if it's slugging it out with an enemy ship, it just has to slug it out. It doesn't have much in the way of active defenses. Not getting very much there. This is a fairly scattered fight. It's just a little bit hard to keep track of for me. Now that we're close enough, I think, what is this, a great axe? Yeah. So this will take some moderate damage. His shields won't help very much against these crams because they have both inertial and timed fuses. See, we're doing still 500 firepower. I think we lost some part of an engine here. You can see part of our turret, which is armored. No, there's not enough room for an engine. Oh yeah, there is enough room for an engine. These are engine parts. The elephants have a fore and aft engine, so we haven't lost our other engine, fortunately. We're at half engine power right now. And they also don't really need engines to fight, other than to maneuver, because they just shoot some APS CWIS and crams as the main guns, so they're fairly economical. See, so this one's the Zephyr. Still got a little bit of APS firepower to it. It's only taken 1% damage. We'll see if we fire another cram volley at it. So far we've taken 7% on the elephant taking all the damage. Unfortunately, our support fleet is very far away, and the enemies are starting to get over us. So we're firing against enemies that we can't really hit very well with this guy, and are doing us moderate damage in return. We'll see. We've lost a fair amount of wood as well. Our decking is a layer of wood, and then we have light alloy under it. So far it doesn't look so bad for 7% though. Still haven't lost much firepower. I think we're returning a little bit of CWIS fire to the enemies over us. And I think the lungfish have started to eliminate some of the smaller enemies. Yeah, I think we're doing okay. Our CWIS isn't great. It's fast enough to hit things that are kind of coming in towards us, but enemies circling overhead, it might struggle with a little bit more. You have to shoot those a little bit faster. I believe these are the dandelion shells. Do I have one in this fight? I do have one in this fight. And it's finally gotten to a sufficiently close range that its shelling is actually effective. Hesh missiles coming in from the other direction, which must be a lungfish. So our fleet is finally starting to get in here. You can see, just faintly because of the weather, some black lasers coming in from the lungfish as well. Not a very big target that they're after, but that's sort of the point of them. They always go against the small targets. Which actually is probably making it switch a little bit. The current target multiplier showed up recently. I put it on for my ramming vehicle. I set it to ×10 on that one because you really don't want a ramming vehicle to switch targets until it actually kills the active target. But I haven't touched it for any of my existing vehicles yet. At some point I'll have to go through and fix up a few things like that and some CWIS settings. So the second sort of doubles as a base. So I just kind of left it there for the moment. Alright, let's try to get our revenge. Unfortunately, the dandelions and thundershocks really slow down the Bastet. The Bastet is very fast and has a very poor turning radius to the point where this landmass may actually be a problem. We'll see one way or the other. I tried for a while to make it more maneuverable, but never quite succeeded. The strategy that I used to do so just is not necessarily the best way to do things. And I say that without actually saying what the strategy is. The strategy was just throwing a bunch of control surfaces up in the pontoons. It really doesn't work very well. I'll show off the actual craft as soon as I start this battle. Now, one thing about... Actually, I kind of want to start the Bastet in the tail. One thing about the Raven's Nest is it has guns all the way around, and it will shoot at smaller targets. I did not put myself on one of these vehicles. We will have to rectify that as soon as we can, so that I can actually move myself in. This is very dark. Let's see if it lightens up a little bit as the battle starts. Not really. So, I built the Bastet when I was sort of moving away from lambs and that sort of stuff, just a little bit to just make a few craft without it. So it relies on this kinetic Sea-Whiz gun, a large one in the middle, and then some smaller ones. These fire continuously and are 1 meter autoloaders with rails. This one does not, it's belt fed. It has no recoil absorption, basically. It relies entirely on visible tracers for accuracy. And then this, I believe, is a slightly reworked turret from the Excessive Force. So it's a railgun with, I believe, supercavitation base hollow points in the middle. We've seen our other craft, so let's go look at what the enemy has. If memory serves, this is really trippy. Okay, the Alchemist Slayer, the Raven's Nest, and I thought there was a Hunchback here. Or there was the last time we fought it. Maybe we killed it somewhere else. Yeah, we must have killed it somewhere else. So let's unpause so things can start moving, and see the Raven's Nest. So hopefully our kinetic rounds are going to drain the lambs on the Raven's Nest, and let us get some damage through with the dandelions. So far, we're starting to rack up a little bit of damage, which suggests that it's working. Hopefully we have flares. So, hopefully we're not shooting ourselves too much either. It looks like we might be. Our failsafe might not quite be working well enough, so we might be doing ourselves some damage. So yeah, when we're not shooting ourselves, you can see the bullets spraying out. So those are the missiles from the Raven's Nest, which are really the primary damage coming in. And the Bastet, I don't believe, uses flares at all, actually. It relies entirely on its Sea-Whiz and some interceptors to defend itself. And we're just tanking the APS from the Raven's Nest. We're very fast, or relatively fast, at least you can see the 137 meters per second. But we're not turning a tight enough radius to really avoid the enemy. Fortunately, we sort of have these big pontoons on the side. We do not appear to be shooting missiles right now. Oh, no, we are. They're just reloading. We have... I forgot about it because I added it in late. I used to have twice as many Sea-Whiz guns on the pontoons, but I stripped them off and put missiles in instead. It looks like we're getting fire returned on the Dandelion to some extent. It'll be hard to see, but we'll see what kind of damage the Raven's Nest is taking. Fortunately, it looks like the accuracy is not quite there. Frame rate's a little bit low. Yeah, so we're not taking very much damage. Nice hit right to our APS, but that explosive damage is mostly going to prioritize those wood blocks. Looks like that was a Raven's Nest missile, maybe coming in for the Dandelion. I don't think the Bastet was out there. Got intercepted by our Sea-Wiz. Oh, the Bastet took some crippling damage at some point. Maybe we'll actually lose this. It's not a very good vehicle, but I was expecting it to be able to win this fight pretty easily. Yeah, so those missile barrages really hurt. Unfortunately, that's not really where we want to do damage to the Raven's Nest. Big room of materials, though, so they might not like losing that. But I really want to hit the engine spike. Well, I didn't actually find the engines, but the engine spike. Still, the Raven's Nest is down for a fair amount of firepower. Oh, that's why we're not doing so well. Alright, well... Fine. Fine. I said that might be a problem. And, yes, it turns out it was in fact a problem. We'll just let it sit in the corner and think about what it's done. It has a very poor rate of turning, and it does try to switch broadsides occasionally to spread out the damage equally among both sides. Probably did it at the wrong time. At some point, I might see if I can get it to turn faster. I'll have to look at various ways of doing it. I might even go as far as switching it to a breadboard and doing sort of my own thing. And I did not know the Raven's Nest had shields. Doing my own thing and either slowing it down when it turns or using some big turning thrusters. It already has turning thrusters, but maybe something a little bit more significant. Looks like the block confetti's really starting. We probably knocked down the lambs a little bit. The Raven's Nest is, I think, the only enemy fortification that really fights back in the campaign. Now, even in this fight, it's not fighting back very well. We've primarily fought back against ourselves. But it does fight back. I did want to use my ramming vehicle against the Grey Talons, and I have had more success recently with ramming physics. Maybe one of the patches must have tweaked them up a little bit. But sub-objects, I believe, still have a reduced collision interval, so it doesn't check collisions on them every frame. And that means that a lot of the time when it rams enemy vehicles, it just hits spin block first. And just destroys the spin block, which makes it lose the outer shell. Recently, the version's out on the Steam Workshop. I decided to give it a little bit of counter torque. We're still sitting pretty on our firepower. Give it a little bit of counter torque. We're probably reloading this gun though. Yeah, we're about halfway done through a reload cycle. Gave it counter torque to the rotating shell by putting a counter rotating nuke inside of the vehicle. So when it does die because it rams an enemy, it sets off its own nuke. I found sometimes that if the nuke dies due to thump damage when it rams, the nuke won't get set up, it just sort of disappears. But it does try to despawn the nuke if it is too damaged, or not despawn, to detonate the nuke if it's too damaged. I'm assuming the Raven's Nest is despawning if we're targeting the Alchemist's Lair. I think the Alchemist's Lair used to do refinement and stuff, but now that we don't do that, I don't think it really has a purpose. Alright, we'll heal up the Bastet after this fight, and see if we can get it out into some open water where it won't just kill itself. Also, try to get a fight with it when we can actually see. It'd be nice to see it a little bit better. Part of the reasons I did put the missiles on it is because it was very reliant on just one big gun in the middle, and if it lost a barrel or two in that gun, the fight was just kind of over. You see this issue in a lot of places, that in a lot of craft, like the Thresher Shark or something. Since they're very all in on just one weapon, if you don't take that weapon out, it's very, very challenging to beat them. Well, the Thresher Shark is very weak armor, so you can just kind of explode it sometimes. But it's very hard to beat them. because they maintain full firepower through the entire fight. If you just clip that barrel right at the start, the battle's over. The Basset has 2 barrels and some secondary and tertiary weapons, but it was still the same issue, so the missiles gave it a little bit more staying power. You can see, well, not to call anyone out, because it's not, necessarily just a bad thing with the vehicle, but you can see the sort of effects on things like his hover tanks, like the Regulus and that sort of stuff. It's a very terrifying craft, and if you've ever tried to beat it in a cost-effective way, it can be very difficult.
Receiving. Moving now. Listening.
But if one of the barrels gets clipped on its turret, the fight can just sort of end. Not to take anything away from it, though. It's very solid, and
moving out. Receiving.
Its relatively small size makes it really dodgy.
Listening.
The turret also does detonate.
Listening.
The vehicle that I had for it, though, is an
Moving
old version, so it's probably been changed or superseded at some point. Wyvern, what's the star cry? I mean, satellite, obviously, a small one.
Listening.
Well, not necessarily the smartest move to run into a secmet, but something that they're certainly allowed to do. Alright. Let's take a look at it. I don't think I've ever seen it before. There's something... Oh no, that's just the massive blocks falling off. I see forward firing lasers. Doesn't have much cost, so yeah, that's about it. 11 laser firepower. It's not very much, but depending on how it works, it might be really annoying. I wonder if it'll pitch... Well, it might not live long enough for us to really find out what it does, but I wonder if it'll manage to keep firing down at us the whole time. Are Sea-Wiz starting to fire at it? No. It might be burst lasers or that sort of thing. I was wondering if it would pitch down 90 degrees, because if it's in space, it doesn't really need lift, and use its underbelly thrusters as drive. But we'll just chew it up with a little bit of Sea-Wiz. Yeah, so this is something that I've been noticing happening a lot recently, where it's very bright right now for some reason. I don't have to change the settings at all for this to happen. And I've also been having... I've been having a lot of crashes I should have saved already. But sometimes I'll load up the game and it's really bright, and sometimes I'll load up the game and it's not. I don't really have much of a reason one way or the other. Let's see if we can scare a Titan out here and fight it with the meme ship. I sort of want to show off what it does. I will manually have to control when it does and doesn't fire.
Receiving.
I'll put a little bit of pressure on them. Okay, we've got to begin battle and then turn off our weapons very quickly. And I'll explain what's going on. See our weapons traversing in. We want the enemy to have a chance to get up to speed before we turn our weapons on. Our vehicle does look a little bit silly, and I haven't decoed railings or that sort of stuff on it. I started working on the inside a little bit, then sort of stopped. What we do is, you can see we have 374 APS firepower. We're a bit expensive, which sure isn't that much, but, well, these get all of their shell speed from rails, and they have enough rail charge to shoot every bullet in the gun. So what's going to happen, we'll see what we actually shoot at, is that we just shoot... I wonder what this thing is making. The Meek. That was a little bit interesting. Oh right, it's paused, which is why it doesn't play sound. It's sort of annoying.
Engaging now.
So we'll target the Phoenix. Maybe. The fact that our missiles were going down there is a little bit disturbing. And that's all of our APS shells. Literally all of them. Only 7% damage. Our accuracy left a little bit of something to be desired. Fortunately, we have missiles. This vehicle would be very bad otherwise. I wonder if the Phoenix does things... Okay, it does a little bit of missile firepower. We've taken a little bit of damage. This is going to be a lot of healing. Scorns, okay. Well, eventually we'll shoot another chunk once our shells have loaded. These weapons are pure autoloader spam. They don't have clips. That means when they load every single autoloader at the same time. So it's going to fire another one of those volleys. What's the armor percentage? 40%. Big chunk of armor. Despite the Twin Guard's ability to just pop out ships, we should be resource advantaged on this one. We may have a little bit of trouble tearing up all of these small ships. We have a little bit of Sea Whiz, but not a lot. Looks like we destroyed some smoke generators. Does some pretty good damage to this. I imagine it has torpedoes then, because I'm seeing some very large missile tubes, which I don't think I ever bothered to make torpedo. Well, I think I might have seen torpedo poppers. I was going to say I didn't bother to make torpedo defense on this, but I did see some torpedo poppers leaving. Yeah, okay. So I bothered to put in some torpedo poppers, maybe. Yep, missile interceptors. If you want to have fun with burp guns, it's on the workshop, but I'm sure other people have made better burp guns. There's also other things you can do with burp guns. I used 1 meter autoloaders in these because they have the best reload rate. But I could give them 1 clip and have them shoot half their shells at once, so every 35 seconds they'd shoot half their shells, or keep adding clips and doing that and have, smaller bursts that come out more often. The other thing I could do is, if I wanted to make it more efficient, maybe I could use 2 meter autoloaders with 4 clips. So the 2 meter autoloaders, well, they have twice the reload time, but with the 4 clips, I believe that would lead to 35-second volleys. But have a more efficient Tetris. Alright, we AI deaded that. Have a more efficient Tetris than... We're never going to hit this with our main guns. Have a more efficient Tetris than just doing two clip with, or 1 clip with 1 meter autoloaders. No, I didn't get that math quite right. Oh, that's a waste. We did kill it though. It is dead. Oh, we've got more. Oh, yep, very dead. It looks like our Sea-Whiz is mostly getting there. We do have a little bit of trouble shooting straight up. We're trying. Our missiles might get there. Unfortunately, well, these are both not very maneuverable, and the missiles in this game are very bad going straight up. They're not like the ramming vehicle that I made that actually functions when going up. They really don't. I'm not sure I can get out of here. That's convenient. It does bring the scale of this into reality for a little bit. This is a big ship. It's also nice. It's also a big displacement ship. So... Well, I just got hit. Yeah, I'm just getting a little bit impatient. We will kill it eventually. But we are not built for this. We can take out small vehicles with our Sea-Whiz, but it's a little bit of trouble. Well, we shot at something and it's not this, so there must be something else to shoot at. Probably that thing. No, that must have been what I was just shooting at. Oh, our turning radius is also gigantic. Oh, this looks like probably torpedo damage. Who really knows, though? I suspect that this is just a very thin wall of armor. It's been so long since I've built this that I don't remember. And just a big airspace. There's a lot of vacant space inside this vehicle. 35% armor cost. This is what the next... We're trying to shoot down one scorn from this distance. Let's see if we can end the battle without... Yeah, okay. Well, we don't need to kill the last scorn. Let's see what we've got here. A warbird and a zephyr.
Receiving.
Okay, this will be quite a bit in our favor, but we'll still do it anyway. It is starting to get to the point in the game where I might just start killing things. We've still got a Grey Talon fleet and a little bit of a Scarlet Dawn fleet to wear down, but I might just start destroying all of the big bases in the Grey Talons the next episode. It's part of the reason I just dispersed all the Thundershocks around, because even though I don't see any, Perseuses or Extinctions or something that builds in ICBMs, so this is disappearing very rapidly. Not as fast as I thought. Or things that spawn in ICBMs. Well, the Grey Talons will spawn in ICBMs when I destroy a tribe. I really doubt we're gonna take that much fire in return here. So we'll just watch these vehicles take some damage. Oh, I'd assumed that this might have been somewhat decorative, but no, those are actually just APS pieces just sticking out there. I probably noticed that the last time I fought this. This isn't the first time we've seen it. See some airburst shells coming in. We're missing a lot with our kinetic rounds. Still, it's just a few decent hits. That's an interesting cluster of thrusters, especially for sort of an aesthetic build. Alright, a decent hit there. And while I was watching, the other one already got destroyed. We didn't really take any damage, which I wasn't really expecting us to. And with that, I think that's enough from the depths for one night. I hope you all enjoyed watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.